Are you ready, Dr. Fetzer?
Go ahead. Start.
3, 2, 1. Liftoff. All right. Welcome to the new JFK Show number 184. Larry Rivera, as always, is going to come up with something new in JFK, and sometimes it's a big deal. And tonight, it really is a big deal. We're going to really, really put the nail in the coffin of one of the big researchers in JFK. So, Larry Rivera, go ahead and talk to me before I play the tapes.
Well, first of all, I want to just thank Carl Golovin, an independent investigator who offered. We hooked up together at Judy Baker's conference last November, and he asked me, "Is there anything at the National Archives that you would, like me to perhaps look into?" And I said, "Yeah, I've been looking for the lost tapes, the Billy Lovelady, Kenneth Bruton, Robert Groden tapes of November of 1976." When they were sent by Richard Sprague, to go and interview Billy Lovelady about The Man in the Doorway. And we've already done a show on that, okay? And what we got here on the screen is the actual tape, Jim and Gary and Don, of which Carl was, so nice, this guy, to send and everything, and he actually, he spent the whole day at the National Archives. And he found the tapes, and he taped them, and he digitized them into WAV files, okay, which we have, okay. This is the first time ever, and what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the first tape. Let me get this. I'm running out of battery, and what Carl did was he went over there, and based on the audio accession list that I gave him, I provided. He went in and he actually tracked down the tapes, okay? And these are the lost tapes, and nobody has ever listened to these. And for, those people who listen to this show on a weekly basis, what you're gonna listen to today is something that has never, ever been published, never been listened to before. We did a show last year, and we had a very poor quality. Hold on, let me get this here so I don't get lost.
Yeah, last year we had a garbled tape. It seemed to be purposely garbled. And Larry and I painstakingly went through it and wrote down the transcript of it. But now it was totally unnecessary.
That's right.
Nothing, because we got the clear tape.
That's right, Gary, and you. Hold on, and you and I, we spent, I don't know how long it was, maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
It was hard work. It was hard work because it would go raw, and you'd have to figure out what they said.
Yeah, I know, but now what we have are crystal clear versions of those tapes, okay? And what was said in there, and who did what, and who said what, and I think it's going to be very surprising, to our audience.
Yeah, Larry, why don't you play the tapes from your side?
All right, let me go here real quick and get this going, because I'm very excited about this, and Carl, he's been after me. He asked me, if I had listened to these, okay? Yeah. And I'm going to run this on VLC Media Player. Okay?
All right, so Larry, let's get the cast of characters.
Okay.
We have Bruton, Kenneth Bruton, attorney.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Need to turn it
up a little more.
States House of Representatives in Washington, D.C.
Yeah,
I have permission, sir, to tape this interview. All right, sir. Would you please tell me your full name? Billy Nolan Lovelady. And your current address, sir? 3488 South California, Aurora, Colorado. And where did you live prior to your coming to Colorado? Irving, Texas. All right, sir. And on or about November the 22nd, 1963, where were you employed? Texas Food Hospital. All right, sir. Would you tell me what happened, to the best of your recollection, at your home on the morning of November the 22nd, 1963? What time did you get up? What did you do?
I'd say we got up around
6:30, between 6:30 and 7 o'clock. And made preparation to go to work and left and catch the bus on the corner of first bus go downtown. So my car was out of commission. We got down at 7:30. And I transferred bus to go to my work. My wife also same thing to go to her work. And I had to take school book and work at 8 o'clock in the morning.
All right, sir. Did your normal routine in the morning consist of showering and shaving in the morning, or did you shower and shave at night?
It's better to have the image than no image, Larry.
When you
Turn
got
it up some more. Turn it up some more.
Yeah,
or before you went to bed.
okay.
Now, do you remember how you were dressed that day?
Sure do.
All right, sir. Would you please describe whether you were wearing any glasses or not?
I do not wear glasses.
All right, sir. Did you wear any type of a T-shirt?
Yes,
In,
the cotton, just a undershirt, t-shirt.
all right, sir. Do you recall what type of slacks you had on?
I wore blue jeans,
All right, sir. Do you recall what type of shirt you have on?
just an ordinary work shirt. Oh,
All right, sir. Would you describe that shirt for me, please?
no.
You heard that?
Red one, plaid shirt, just what you call cotton, ordinary cotton plaid shirt.
All right, sir. Now, this is a photograph. It's a color Xerox copy of a photograph that was taken. Maybe you can tell me who it was taken by, with regard to CBS or somebody that did something. Was it CBS? Is that the shirt that is in
There is.
the picture? All right, sir. Let's initial it. Do you have it? Yeah. Let's initial this as identifying the shirt. All right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Would you just write, this is the shirt you were wearing on November the 22nd, 1963. Inside. So we don't lose that picture. So we know which shirt we're talking about.
Yeah, Larry.
Yo,
Man, hold up. You should stop and they're looking at the Algin's photograph of Lee Nadoli right now, right?
And has it been in your possession since that time?
Day one.
All right. Now, you said you took the bus to work that day,
Yes, sir.
and you arrived at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
Was anyone with you?
No, I walked from the bus stop to
All right. And when you arrived at work, where did you report?
just went inside the building. It was probably exactly 8 o'clock. I had a cup of coffee or something like that forward.
Was there a time card check-in or anything like that? That you punched in or anything like that? You count?
No.
What was the normal procedure for you to follow, or for the employees of the depository to follow when you reported for work? Who handed out? Who made duty assignments and things like that? Did you have a
Well, we had a foreman, Bill Shelley, and then Mr. Trudy was over him, and we either filled orders or at that day we were working on the 6th floor, putting in plywood flooring to replace those because it had a lot of grease on it and come through the box and you go to this one.
All right. Now, who was working with you on the 6th floor that day? You recall?
Well, there's several. There was Bonneray Williams, Charles Gibbons, Wesley Frazier, and
What's going on?
yeah, that. There's what's the short back to them.
All right. Who was this a work assignment that you had previous to that?
We had worked, I believe, some of the day before on it. We had one side of the flooring done already and had done to one side and we pushed over.
Right. Did your work deviate in any way, or was there any directions to you on that day to do anything different than what you'd done before?
Not for sure what I did.
Okay. Did you notice anyone? How many days had you been working up on the 6th floor?
2 or 3 now.
All right. Did you notice during those 2 or 3 days anyone that you didn't know or anyone that wasn't supposed to be up there?
Okay.
All right. Around the school book depository or in the depository, did you notice any strangers coming in and going out?
Sure did not.
Now, on that morning then, you were laying this plywood with these other people.
Right.
All right. And then what happened after that?
Now we worked till around 10 till 12. And we all got together and went down to freight elevators to get ready for lunch or go wherever. You know, the other guys, some went out, some stayed, had their lunches. And we went down to the first floor to clean up and get ready for go.
All right. Now, when you were on the 6th floor, did you see Lee Harvey Oswald?
No, on the 6th floor.
All right. Did you see Lee Harvey Oswald at all that morning?
Yes, sure did.
All right.
He was working, filling orders as usual. Working on the 5th and 6th floor, you know, coming up elevator and seeing, filling orders.
All right. You recall about what time you saw him that day?
All the various times, just, you know, every time during the morning.
All right. And he was filling orders?
Yes,
All right. And that was on the 5th or 6th floor?
yes.
All right. You recall how he was dressed on that day?
I believe he had blue jeans, just an ordinary tight work shirt and a t-shirt.
Did you see pictures of him after his arrest?
Sure did.
Was he dressed the same after his arrest as he was when he was at work?
Right, sure.
Okay. Now, did you follow when you went on your lunch procedure? Was that the normal procedure that you usually follow?
Yes,
I mean, you'd start about 10 to 12 and go down and wash up?
yes. So the elevators are fairly slow in time. We all got to complete what we were doing, you know, got to the elevators and then down to the first floor, you know, maybe 5 or so. And it's still 12 time you cleaned up, maybe 12 o'clock. So,
All right.
we got 45 minutes left.
Now, when you saw Lee Oswald, did he act differently than he had acted any other time when you saw him?
No, sure didn't.
Did he appear anxious or nervous or anything?
Not that I can tell.
Okay. About what time was the last time you saw him?
10 minutes or 12 on the 5th floor.
All right. And did he say anything to you or to anyone that was with you?
Nothing. He just told us that one elevator that closed the gates, and when he gets to the bottom, he push a button and it'll come back up. And
All right.
he asked us if we would do this. And we had told him, no, we're going down and get ready for lunch and it's quit time and just joking around when the guy said, no, he wasn't going to do it. And he said, you know, come on down, says, let's go eat or go watch the parade. And he said, no, sir, it's a closed gates and he went that way, had some more.
Okay, I just want to pause here for a second and show you guys the transcript. Okay, because, you know, this is a bunch of horse crap, okay? Lee Oswald never worked on the 5th and 6th floor. He always worked on the 1st floor filling orders, okay? This whole scenario that Billy Lovelady is presenting here is not true. Don't forget that we did interviews with Roy Lewis. And Roy Lewis said, you know, look, up there on the 5th and 6th floor, you know, nothing ever happened up there. In fact, Roy Lewis didn't even acknowledge that there was work being done on the 6th floor, you know, supposedly refurbishing plywood up there. And we know that there's never been any material, you know, or any photographs of any type of material, you know, up there, tools, you know.
No saws or
right.
pry bars.
So,
like
you know,
that.
we can see where all this is going, you know.
Larry, he does confirm Lee was wearing the same clothing at work that he was wearing when he was arrested. That's significant.
Yeah.
Is there any discussion about what they were actually doing at the book depository, whether the boxes had anything to do with books?
No, never. In fact, Roy Lewis said that when he went up there at 10 in the morning, that sniper's nest was already there, okay? And Roy Lewis even said, look, you know, that 6th floor, you know, was so poorly lit, you know, that you had to go up there with flashlights, okay? And I want to go further, you know, because if you look at some of the very early news reports, Thomas Kaysen said, look, you know, the 5th and 6th floor were dead space. In fact, we used to have to go up there looking for some of our employees who were napping, you know, people that were missing, you know, they could find them up there, you know, napping because nobody would ever go up there. You know, so all this scenario that Billy Lovelady setting here is a bunch of bunk, all right?
Right. You notice, you notice when they said, could you describe the shirt you were wearing? He says, no. And they both laughed about it.
Well, no, and we're gonna see, you know, as this Kenneth Bruton tries to establish a supposed beard that Billy Lovelady was wearing, and it's nothing more than the Martin film, the Martin film, the frame of the Martin film, which has been underexposed.
All right, is there anybody else in the room?
What do you mean? What room?
In this
While this interview is taking place.
Oh yeah. Of course, Patricia is there, and we're gonna. In fact, at the beginning of the recording, you could hear her laughing, you know, because she believes this is such a, you know, funny thing, you know, here. But my point is that this Bruton is very, very intent on establishing that Billy Lovelady is wearing a beard, okay? And because the man there in the Martin film, if you look at it, in which I have already shown you here on the screen share, and I'll go back to it, okay? He seems, okay, like he's wearing a beard, okay, right here as I scroll down. Can you guys see this? Okay.
No.
Can you see
All
it?
we see is the tapes right now.
Oh, okay. How about now?
No, don't see it.
Okay, hold on. Oh, sorry. Okay, that's the tape, right?
Yeah, that's the tapes. That's another tape.
Okay. I'm gonna go here and show you. It stopped. Okay, I'll get this going again. This is what I want you guys to see. You see this?
Now we do.
Okay, you see this guy here, and we've talked about this a few times. You know, this is bunk. Okay, this is an underexposed version of the Martin film. Okay, which they want us to believe that it's Billy Lovelady with a growth of beard. Okay, for crying out loud. Now, when Grodin republished the Martin film, guess what? Look, ta-da!
Yeah. So that's why Kenneth Bruton's asking him about, did you shave in the morning? Did you not shave?
Exactly. Because what they want to do, and this is prevalent throughout the tape here, they want to establish that Billy Lovelady didn't shave, you know, that he supposedly shaved at nighttime. And it's so obvious that they're trying to, you know, create a scenario here that just could not have possibly been.
So even Bruton here is asking the questions, is deeply involved in covering this up.
Absolutely, 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 Jim. And I'm going to go further because when we finish later on, I mean, I think the most important part of this audio tape is when Bruton asked Lovelady if Lee Oswald, you know, was there in the doorway. And I don't want to, you know, jump ahead here, but because I think that's the most important portion of this tape. And we will discuss, you know, the ethics involved as far as, you know, a lawyer or an investigator, you know, doing this kind of work. Okay, so
what we're discovering here is another example of fabricating evidence in order to implicate Lee.
Thank you.
All right, so we have Tricia Lovelady, we have Billy Lovelady, Kenneth Bruton. Is there anybody else in the room?
Robert Groden.
Oh, I think it's important.
He's in the room, Gary.
Okay, well, it's important that everybody knows that.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Now, prior to the Kennedy assassination, did you and Lee Oswald have any discussions?
No, not in discussion. I'd ask him maybe how his little baby boy was having been maybe a couple months old or a month and a half, and he'd answer, and that would be
Did you ever discuss politics or anything?
Sure didn't.
All right. Did he ever discuss his travels with you?
No.
All right. What were your observations about how he worked, and about his habits, and about his relationships with his other books? Can you just give me an idea about that?
As far as his work, he just worked just like, you know, went about his own business, and he might come up to me because I was in charge of the stock, but enough time he may ask me, you know, what a book was or what a title of the book was, and I'd tell him, you know. And he'd go and meet Bill over, and just like the rest of us, and but you'd ask him something, and he'd answer for that, and he wouldn't give him for that make him understand. Shoot the bull with you or something.
How did he seem to get along with people he worked with? From your own observation.
He was, to me, real quiet, you know, standoff, you know, kind of to himself, a loner. And, you know, I'm trying to, you know, like, throw a corner around these guys. And I don't know. I didn't like him myself. I mean, never did nothing with this type of, you know, telling men if we like or not.
Right. Okay. Did you ever notice anything unusual about his actions or anything that he did other than what you've already described?
No.
What was his general appearance like?
Oh, okay. You know, shaven, well shaven, clean.
All right. What person would he have been closest to at work? By closest, I mean, who? Do you know who he was friendliest with at work? Like that? All right. Now, when did you first learn that President Kennedy was coming to Dallas?
Newspaper again.
All right. Do you remember TV? Do you remember when? Do you remember when that was?
I don't think it was day before, 2 days.
All right. When was it, to your recollection, when was the news of the parade route first published in? Do you remember?
I didn't know myself. So, really, I don't remember, you know, reading the paper.
Do you recall any conversations of anybody in the Texas School Book Depository on November the 22nd, 1963, or immediately before, about President Kennedy's visit to
I
Dallas?
think we just mentioned it maybe up while we was laying the floor that he spoke, you know, come through town and pray. And we talked. In fact, we had mentioned that going up back on the 6th floor in Washington Mackerel had a real good view of it.
All right.
But,
Now you said you were on the 6th floor that day, and you were working on the 6th floor that day.
right.
Did you or did anyone who was working with you ever go over by the window? Or they said that Lee Harvey Oswald was said
Oh, I mean, we were quite a few
over by
out
there.
there. That's where we were factoring the books and stacks. I looked toward that area.
Would you tell me how you decided, or the people who were with you decided where you would be when you we're going to watch the motorcade come by?
Well,
Do you recall how that was brought up?
When we all got down on the 1st floor, and we scattered our own ways or went in more ourselves, whatever, and we had mentioned about going back up and watching on the 6th floor, and so I turned around and nobody was there, and I said, well, and I happened to look outside, and I saw a few of the people I knew that worked in the school building back in Metro Shell standing outside on the entrance to the doorway, and I said, well, I'll just go out and sit with them, stand with them, watch them.
Okay.
Stood up, but I couldn't find nobody else.
I guess what I'm getting at is, did anybody tell you, well, why don't you go down to the front steps?
No,
You
my own decision.
went down there just on the
Right.
Do you recall anybody that you did you know which way did you know he was going to come immediately by there?
I believe it did, because, I think they said, or somebody said that's where he would be passing by when people were standing out there and something.
All right. Okay. Were there any announcements or instructions made or given by anyone at the Texas School Book Depository about the visit, the motorcade? Did they tell you to go out or not to go out or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. Do what you want to do when you're on out.
You just went out on your lunch hour. Now, how tall a person are you?
5'8.5" shoes on.
All right. How much did you weigh then? You recall?
Oh, I'd say 60, 65.
That's right. And what was the length of your hair?
I had a crew cut.
You had a crew cut.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's kind of important. Do you recall whether you had a crew cut? You had a crew cut then. All right. When was the last time you shaved? Do you recall that?
Oh.
Were you growing your beard at that time?
I'm not fair.
When was the last time you shaved? When would that have been?
Yeah.
The night before.
40 hours.
All right. Okay. You're shaving really bad.
Yeah, put the transcripts back.
All right. Okay.
Where you go, I say.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth now, but this is it's kind of important about how is it possible?
Yeah, I had to stop this right now. Are you guys here with me? Because, he is talking about the scenario that they're trying to establish here is the beard. The beard, okay? We're talking about an underexposed version of the Martin film. And so this whole scenario that Kenneth Bruton is trying to push here.
Yeah. What about the top of his hair? You don't think they're trying to match him in the doorway, man?
Right, very probable. That's a good point, Gary. That's a very good point because what they're trying to do is they're trying to shape Billy Lovelady as doorway man. But this thing about the Martin, we have to go back to this over and over again because as we all know, Robert Groden republished the Martin film, the image there that we were just looking at. And, you know, he's, you know, obviously, you know, this man here, and I have to put it up here again. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay. This guy obviously looks like he's wearing a beard. But as Harold Weisberg said, you know, this was an underexposed version of the Martin film. And when Robert Groden republished it, check this out. Do you see a beard on this guy? I mean,
Not really.
really, guys, you know, let's take a vote here. You know, Jim, you know, is this guy wearing a beard?
Well, it looks like he's got
A little bit of
heavy.
a little bit of a shadow, right?
Yeah, but not a beard, not as in the underdeveloped version.
Now, would you call this a beard, Gary and Don?
No, it looks like it's by no means a heavy beard like they're trying to portray in the other picture.
That's right. That's right. So what we're looking at, you know, very obvious, you know, deception here, you know, and so, you know, and our audience here can obviously, you know, make up their own minds, you know, because this one that I have here up on the screen, this did not come out.
Well, Larry, he was even saying he wasn't trying to grow a beard.
I know, exactly. Thank you.
I think this just isn't panning out. You may not be aware of all the nuances here of how they want to use it.
That's right. That's right. So they're trying to, you know, create this scenario here, which just does not fit as far as I'm concerned, you know.
Yeah, they laughed about him having a lot of hair.
Yeah, right. So, but it gets even more interesting here. Let me just go back and
Yeah, the transcript helped out a lot.
yeah. But we're gonna see it.
But I don't want to say that. You tell me what your best estimate is about how long it had been before that you shaved.
Should have been 2 days.
All right. Okay. Now, did you eat your lunch on the steps?
Yes.
All right. Now, I've never been there. But I saw a picture where there's a railing down the middle.
Same thing.
All right. They're just plain steps coming down. Okay. All right. Did you sit down on the steps and eat your lunch?
Yes.
All right. Did you have your lunch bag with you? Did you pack your lunch?
Yes. My lunch, but I had a Coke.
All right. Where would you have purchased the Coke?
Inside on the 2nd floor.
Okay. And then you went outside, and what kind of lunch were you eating? Remember that?
Just a sandwich. Coke.
All right. Do you know whether you had your lunch bag when the motorcade passed and the Coke bottom, or had you eaten your lunch and thrown it away?
I just feel like I would
It was right there. All right. What would you describe for me, sir? What was going on the steps with the people on the steps?
just, you know, general talking, going on, waiting for the president to come back.
But to the best of your recollection, you had your lunch bag in your hand at the time, or it was there.
I was sat down, you know, I haven't sat down and sat between the legs.
All right. Was there anyone on those steps that you didn't recognize?
No.
All right. Were the people who were on the steps people from the school book depository?
Employees of tech school,
Okay.
different functions.
Do you recall the people who were on there?
Here we go.
West Flavor, Bill Shelley, Sarah Stanton, and some of those ladies that worked upstairs.
All right. Do you recall which step you were on?
I was sitting on the first step when feet in, on the second or third step, sitting on the main first platform.
All right. Did you see Lee Oswald around those steps
No,
at any time? Would it have been possible from where you were sitting, eating your lunch, that he could have been there And you didn't see.
Could have.
Stop, 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 stop,
There it is.
stop, 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 stop.
Could have.
Full stop. Full stop.
Okay, gentlemen, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Wow, could have.
Could have.
He was
Probably not what they wanted him to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're gonna say could have, you know, that's a little, you know, shocking, you know, so to speak. You know, if I as a lawyer, you know, and the person that I am interrogating, you know, says to me that Lee Oswald could have been on the steps, what? I mean, you guys want to play Perry Mason or whatever? What would the next line of questioning what would have been, you know, in your mind? I'll just throw it out there, you know.
Well, if it was possible that he could have been there, then he was there.
Yeah, but what would you have done? Don, come on, Don. Give me some love.
I think it's pretty obvious that Oswald was there, and then Billy Lovelady here kind of slipped up.
Thank you. And my next reaction as a lawyer would have been, I mean, lawyers are always looking, you know, this is something that in the legal, you know, parlance, you know, whatever you want to call it, is opening the door. Okay. So if you get a witness to admit and to open that kind of door, what would you do? You know? If I'm a lawyer, I'm going to say, what? Tell me about this. You know what I'm saying? I want to know more. I want to know more about this. All right? And
They didn't go any further than that.
And Kenneth Boone, as a lawyer, obviously should have known, you know, wait a minute, this guy is opening a door wide open here. What am I going to do? And
You could ask questions. Well, if he could have possibly been there, was he on the steps at any time? You know, did you see him there at any? You know, there's all kind of questions.
Well, you know, if it was me as the interrogator, the lawyer, you know, who is doing this, I'm going to say, what? So wait a minute, you're saying that Lee Oswald could have been on the door? Tell me more about this, you know? I want you to, you know, that's what I would have done as a lawyer, you know? But guess what Kenneth Boone does?
Yeah, he acts like he didn't hear that.
You guys, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I'm reading the transcript. Yeah, he shifts gears here pretty quick.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to move on to the second category of questions, which are events.
Yeah, let's go to the second category.
How many shots do you recall?
How many shots?
3. Right. Would you?
Hello. Oh, hello. Listen, guys, you know, I'm sorry if I have to go back to this again and again and again, but, you know, the deception is so freaking obvious, you know? Yeah. This man did not want Billy Lovelady to talk about Lee Oswald in the doorway, period.
Right.
You know? Jim, any thoughts?
No, it's obvious, Larry. It's obvious.
Yeah, let's go on to the second set of questions.
How are you doing on your hourglass, Larry?
Yeah, we're almost at the half-hour mark because mine does an entire hour. Okay, so I have to eyeball it. So, Gary, if you want to go ahead and
yeah, sounds like a good time for a break. We'll take one right now. JFK 184, Billy Lovelady, and the tapes.
The lost tapes.
Yeah.
Again.
All right, the lost tapes, thanks to Mr. Gullivan, Carl Gullivan.
Carl Gullivan, yeah.
Definitely put them in our hands, and there's an awful lot of information in there, especially what caught my eyes when they said, let's talk about the shirt you were wearing. And he said, no, I don't think I want to. It was like a little joke. He knew he had to talk about it. But that was very telling to me.
Yeah. And you know, later on when we look at the second hour of this tape, I must admit that they go into damage control. Okay, and I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of a preview of we'll do this, you know, next week. But they actually go into the issue of the FBI photo shoot of February 29th, 1964, Jim, which you are so very familiar with, where the FBI asked Billy Lovelady to wear what shirt? The one that he was wearing the day of the assassination. But, you know, in this tape, they are in damage control, and it's very obvious that they are trying to
create.
Yeah, yes, that they're trying to redo this whole thing about the shirt that he wore that day, and even Patricia gets involved in here. And I don't want to, because this is something that we want to, say for next week, because I think that the first portion here, this first tape is the most important one, because what we just heard, where he's talking.
Larry, you can go ahead and lay it out. We can always come back to it again. I'd go ahead and go with it all now.
Well, and, Robert Grodin and Kenneth Bruton make a concerted effort, in revisiting, the FBI photo shoot, and try to sugarcoat and fix, the damage that was done.
Right. They're trying to obfuscate the importance of the interview and the photographs.
That's right, because as you know, on that day they said, "Hey, Billy, we want you to come here, and we want to do a photo shoot, and we want you to come and wear the same shirt that you were wearing the day of the assassination, 12:30 in the afternoon, when you were in the door."
Long, big vertical stripes. It was disgusting.
That's absolutely. However, in this tape, the second tape, which like I said, we'll listen to it next week when we have time, because we still have a lot of stuff to listen to here. He's talking about trying to reverse, so to speak, and okay, who are you going to believe here? The FBI or these people talking about this 13 years after the fact? So.
Yeah, they're talking about how many shots. That's going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah. They talk about, and not only that, they talk about later on, what happened right after, and at what time, how many minutes it took them, and actually, and this is very interesting, because Billy says, when he asks him, where did you hear the shots come from? And he says, hey, from the railroad tracks. And then he says, okay, well, what was the sequence of the shots? Give me claps, and tell me how it went. And he goes, boom, and then boom, boom, which is what 90% of the people heard that day, the first shot, and then the last two, one on top of the other, which would have been completely incompatible, okay, with
the Mannlicher Carcano.
Of course, because, obviously you could not reload and shoot, and aim and hit the target, which was moving, okay, and score the type of shots. And Jim did those experiments with Jesse Ventura, okay. And Jim, you might want to tell us a little bit about that when you guys did that experiment. I think that's very interesting.
Oh yeah, well, we could always recount. We could actually show that segment of Jesse's show, which was so excellent. But the point that you have two shots nearly on top of one another is already decisive. I mean, it's a simple argument that this clearly is not three shots fired by a single shot bolt action rifle.
That's right, and even more so when Jesse Ventura was completely, the way that he reacted, saying, remember when he said bullshit? There's just no way.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that's very significant, because when you guys tried to reenact that, and you guys went up and you built that tower and you did that experiment, which I think is excellent, because it really brings into effect, how the scenario really should have played out, if we were to believe, the official version. Okay, so
that's one more falsification of the official account. I mean, it becomes a question of how many you need. We have probably several hundred at this point in time.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so Larry, you keep showing the picture of him outside in Colorado with the the tight shirt.
Okay, yeah, okay. This is a comparison, side by side. I think this one is really interesting because it really shows the difference between a beard, okay, which Bruton is trying to establish. And very interesting here because you can already start to see the on the right, that little pocket, you know, with the flap that we've been talking about so many times, you know, where in the obfuscated and the underexposed version of the photograph, you cannot even notice, you can't even tell that there's a flap there. But when you get the other one on the right, which is again the one that Grodin republished, you know, so many years later, okay, you can I mean, it's clearly seen right there. I know that we've done, you know, much better enhancements of that, and you know, where, I mean, simple logic dictates here that you either have a flap or you don't. And if you have a flap here and you don't in the other one, then there's a problem, you know. It's not the same shirt, period, you know. And this is here what I'm talking about. Can you guys see this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, this is the essence of the whole case here, you know, to paraphrase
Well, these photographs by themselves impugn Robert Grodin's integrity. It's shot all to hell right here.
And not only that, Jim, this is, if you go to page 187 of his book, you know, Killing of a President, this is where we got these from.
Of course.
You know?
No, there ain't no flap, and therefore it's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Let's move on here, and I mean,
They blew it. I mean, look, if you're gonna have a forgery for the shirt, at least make sure it's got a flap on. I mean,
yeah, okay. Let's go.
For me, the sequence of shots.
There was one shot, a pause, and then two fast ones.
All right. Now, did you hear any difference in the shots? I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, did you note any difference in the, like one was louder than the other? All right.
It's not the same.
All right. But it was one shot and then two in more rapid succession. Okay. From what direction do you believe that those shots came from?
To my right.
All right. And where would that have been?
Around the corner, well, as you're coming out of shape, you have a blind spot. And of course, you have to go down to the bottom to look around the corner now. It sounded like to my right towards the railroad tracks.
Yeah, towards the railroad tracks.
How far away from you would that have been?
150, 200.
Hey, Gary, you had something to say about that, what he just said?
Yeah, he just said that the shots came over there by the railroad tracks about 150 yards away, or feet away.
To his right.
To his right, by the railroad tracks. Okay, so that's significant right there.
No, and okay, and now that we have the really good version of this tape, I think I love this one because
Yeah, put up the transcripts if it's easy to do.
Okay, yeah, cool. Okay, we'll do that. Let's go here and new share, and we'll go here, and we have to go up to the transcript, which is here. Here we go. And you know, Gary, I think that you did an amazing job here because the version of that we worked with was, you know, it wasn't even close to the clearness of this recording. Remember, we slaved on this. How many weeks? Remember, a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Lucky thing, I know a lot of redneck people because I was able to decipher some of the
I know.
other dialect.
I remember you. I remember I kept sending you the transcript, and you said, "Oh, I found this, I found that." You know, I said, "How you know, Gary? You know,
You have to be part redneck."
I know, and you said, "Well, you know, I understand the dialect." You know. Okay. Let's go. Let's move on here. Cool stuff. Really cool stuff.
All right. Where are the steps? Again, I haven't been down there. Where are the steps in relation to the sixth window of that school book depository?
Almost directly above.
Right. Did you hear anything from up there?
No.
All right. Did you smell? I take it you're familiar with the smell of gunpowder. Did you smell anything?
No, I didn't.
All right. Now, did you see any smoke or anything?
No,
coming from up there?
I could not see the window from where I was at anyway.
All right. All right. Did you see any smoke over by the railroad tracks you described?
No.
Did you see any flashes over there?
No.
But that's where you thought the shots came from.
Right.
What did you do when you heard the shots?
I thought it was first it just somebody with some celebrating parade of the president. It sounded kind of like maybe a loud firecracker or something. So we get all over the concrete sound. And one of the girls that had been standing up close to the curb.
I have to pause a second here because in my book, I have a chapter on Beverly Brunson and how Beverly believed that there were firecrackers.
Streamers.
That's right, thrown as diversions, okay, for, to have people looking the other way, and then, the actual damage being done by silenced weapons,
I still believe that the smoke was a complete diversion. The little puff of smoke.
Yeah, because
Really believe it.
And you know what, Gary, modern weapons, modern rifles, contain gunpowder that does not smoke.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big, almost over-the-top puff of smoke.
However, if you're going to throw diversions, like firecrackers and cherry bombs and, quarter dynamites and stuff like that, that's exactly what would happen, And if you want people looking the other way, that would be the perfect way to do it.
Things flying over. You said there was one of them on Lyndon Johnson's on the wiper blades.
That's right, and if you're really gonna have professionals, they're not gonna use weapons that are making a lot of noise. They're gonna be silenced weapons. Okay, so this right here, what Billy Lovelady is talking about firecrackers, and also I have to add that even some of the Secret Service guys, talked about firecrackers down below, at ground level. So just something that sort of like starts to fill out the whole puzzle here exactly as to how this whole scenario played out down there in Dealey Plaza.
Yeah, Beverly Brunson was on it, man.
I believe so. Okay, let's move on. I think this is getting really interesting here because I think Billy, starts to talk about the exact sequence of the shot.
Right now, do you recall who that person was?
Well, Calvin.
Okay. All right. What did you see? Well, after you heard the shots.
Just a lot of people running to the woods. I guess you could, call it behind towards the right angle of the building, and bunch was running towards the railroad tracks that led behind that building.
All right. Are those the same railroad tracks that you described that, in your opinion, the shots came from? Were they running in that direction?
Yes.
Okay, where did Billy say the direction of the shots came from, Gary? Don?
The railroad track. Simple as that.
All right. Do you think that's significant?
Well, especially if you're standing underneath the 6th floor.
Yeah, it says, nothing happened up there. Okay.
How could he be shot from behind, from the front?
Sorry, Don. Sorry, I stepped on you. Go ahead.
How could he be shot from behind, from the front?
Who said that? Who was that, Dr. Fetzer? The reporter that said that?
Yeah, it was Frank McGee.
Frank McGee.
Yeah.
Frank McGee says this is incongruous. How can the man have been shot from in front, from behind?
That's right.
One of the key moments in the whole thing.
And that was, and now that you mentioned Frank McGee, those were the very first impressions that came out that day, which were,
Yes.
We had some truth coming out in the beginning.
And the same as the Mauser and everything,
Yeah.
Okay.
People running and hollering, didn't know what was going on like I don't.
You recall who was standing next to you or anything like that?
Yes, Bill Shannon, he and myself, after the girl told us, Vice President, getting hit, and if I started running towards the railroad track, we took off and started towards the railroad tracks, and one. See, I guess we've seen Lane ourselves, and we got to the railroad tracks, and we wondered what we were doing out here, and then we came into the back entrance of the building and came on back house. And,
All right.
Time out. Okay. Billy just said, I think this is extremely significant because of that Martin film thing. Billy just said that he and Shelley went to the railroad tracks, okay, started to look around and see what was going on, and then they went back into the depository to the side door, okay, back there, the loading dock area. Never does Billy talk about standing outside the front of the Texas School Book Depository, which is what we see in the Martin film of that imposter, okay, with the supposed growth of beard, all right, which actually they've timed I believe it happens to be 10 minutes after the assassination, okay. And what did Billy do? He went back out of the building and stood in front, when he's clearly saying here that he went to the railroad tracks, he went with Bill Shelley, his boss, okay, they stood out there and they watched the cops, search the cars and the box cars and the railroad, and then they went back inside the building, through the side door, okay, which is where the parking lot was, so
Yeah.
right, I mean, right, just this alone completely refutes this thing about the Martin film, okay, so.
Boy, yeah, what kind of security? You could walk in and out the front, the side, the loading dock,
Well,
no problem.
it reveals the enormity of the deception perpetrated by Robert Grote.
Yeah, because if Grote goes out there with a doctored version of the Martin film and he says, hey, this guy's wearing a beard, this is you, Billy Lovelady, but then, years later he says, oh, I'm going to publish it, with the normal exposure setting. Absolutely, Jim. I have to agree with what you're saying. Let's move on here. It's getting good. All right.
Now, we'll move on into what happened immediately after you heard the shots and you went back in the building. What did you see inside the building?
Well, some of the other employees had gotten back into the building at that time, and we stood around and wondered, whether we should go back to work, or since this thing had happened, whether they,
Does he say we stood around outside the building in the front entrance?
No.
He's
Went back
saying
inside.
we stood inside, okay, waiting to find out what our bosses wanted us to do. I think this is extremely significant because, this in itself completely demolishes that crap about John Martin film, he was not outside, Jim, Gary, and Don. He was not outside. He was inside with Bill Shelley, okay? So this thing about him in the Martin film, it's just completely unbelievable. I'm not, I cannot.
It's one more fabrication.
Yeah, of course. Let's go.
if we had to go back to work or not.
Did they have any kind of roll call to find out who was there or anything like that?
Even a roll call inside. They didn't do the roll call outside. They did the roll call inside. 10, 20, 15, 20 minutes after the assassination, after the shots, because they did not want to move. They did not want to go anywhere. All the employees wanted to be accounted for, so what are you going to do? Are you going to go outside, and get caught in the Martin film? I don't think so.
Did they check anything like that?
The policeman and some other authorities had came back into the building, and I don't know what time or how much later, they did eventually have a roll call. See who was there and who wasn't.
All right, now do you know who took that roll call?
Including R.S. Pruitt, I believe.
All right.
How long do you think that roll call took?
I didn't realize that the roll call ever took place. I thought that was made up.
No. He's talking about, inside, all the employees, went back inside the building, immediately, and him and Shelly went in the side entrance, not the front. Okay, so you figure it out. It's pretty. I mean,
Yes. I remember Jim Morris saying that the roll call never took place. I
well,
always thought that was a fabrication.
I don't know about that, but Bill Shelley and Billy Lovelady are talking about them, going inside after spending some time outside, the railroad tracks, the parking lot there, watching, the cops, searching the cars and everything, which has to have been a good 10 or 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. Okay, we've got video of that happening there, so you're gonna tell me that in the Martin film that's Billy Lovelady outside Gorilla Man? Wait a minute, we haven't even mentioned Gorilla Man, because that's the one with the beard and everything out there, and they wrote it, republishes, that same slide, with the normal level of exposure, so.
Talk to us.
Do you know where did they take that, downstairs or what? All right. And you recall about what time that roll call was taken?
That before 1 o'clock.
All right. Okay. So the shots were at 12:30, and they took a roll call before 12 o'clock, before 1 o'clock.
Well, there was a few of us that worked there, and I'll just kind of look around too, and see who was there and who wasn't.
All right.
They've been there that long, but you can just spot somebody.
Okay. Did the police come inside?
We sure did that.
All right.
Let's go it up.
You recall who it was that came inside?
No.
All right. Do you recall what they did when they came inside?
Well,
You got to roll it here.
we ran up
Larry.
Yeah, scroll that, Larry.
someone outside had said they thought the shots came.
That's right.
You're on the wrong page, Larry.
I'm sure now you were describing what happened, and you said one policeman had run up the steps.
Yes, one policeman, Mr. Trude, had run up the steps.
Oh.
Someone had said they saw some.
Okay. This is important, guys, and we're almost out of time here. But if Roy Truly went up with a policeman, 10 minutes after, maybe 15 minutes after, does that comport with this 2-minute time frame of Marion Baker and Truly, going up the steps, and
Within 90 seconds of the shooting.
Yeah, thank you. They need to get their story straight here, Jim.
And the shots had come upstairs, and they were run upstairs, so they couldn't get to a freight elevator to go upstairs.
Do you know if they asked or if they stated that they came from any particular place or any particular floor? Do you recall any conversation about that?
Not at that time.
All right. After that, did they?
Yes.
All right. What would you describe that for me, please?
Someone had said they thought the shots had came from the 6th floor.
All right. Who said that? Do you recall?
Hey, Larry, do the scroll. Do the scroll.
Someone messaged him up when they ran up to that floor.
All right. Now, what else did you see that went on at that time when the police came in?
Well, at that time, after Trudy and the officer ran out, there was several more that Secret Service and FBI, I guess it was, that came in and asked, had to get up to the top of the roof for nothing.
Right. Do you recall when they asked the top of the roof specifically?
They wanted, I don't know how to get to the roof. I told them to show them.
All right. And then what happened after that?
Well, I got in the elevator and took on 10 or 15 up to the 7th floor, but you could stairway to get up on top of the roof. And I let everybody out on the 7th floor, and they scattered in the road. Couldn't find anything up there.
All right. Then what did they do after they were on the 7th floor? Did they go up to the roof?
Yes,
All right.
some went on the roof, some stayed looking on the 7th floor.
Okay. And then then what happened after that?
And they completed their search and found nothing, and one of them asked me has to get down to to take them to the 6th floor. They said something going on down there, so I proceeded to take them to the 6th floor.
All right. And what happened on the 6th floor when you took them there?
They searched around and they I was standing by the gate of the elevator waiting until we stayed there not to come out of that area. And there was several down there already, including the ones I took down. And someone hollered that they had found 3 shells, and then they kept looking. They came out with a rifle.
Right. Now, were you there when they found the 3 shells?
Sure was.
Would you describe them for me, please?
I did not see them.
Okay.
Shells.
All right. Where were you when they found the shell?
At the entrance to the elevator.
All right.
I cannot, I have to jump in here, Jim, because, you know, that Noah Twyman, you know, wrote that marvelous book, you know, which we're also familiar with, and he Bloody Treason, and he wrote about the empty shells, and actually one of them was not empty, you know, so.
Well, he has photographs of 2 empty shell casings, I mean, they did not find 3 empty shell casings there. That was made up by a deputy claiming he took one of the casings and walked around with it in his pocket for a day or so. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they knew that there was a live round there, you know, so.
In the chamber.
But yeah, but anyway, I think we've exhausted our time here. I think we don't need to continue here. We only got a couple of minutes left. If you guys want to listen to the rest of this, it's only.
No, this is good, Larry.
Okay, it's good. Are we done?
Let's get a comment from Don and from Gary before we have to part.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
Okay, well, once again, we see the official story having a hard time holding together, even under the most cursory of examinations here. This is a kind of a set-up interview, and even there, it's falling apart.
Yeah.
I think the timeline, Don, that they're trying to establish here, you know, just it's completely wrong. You know, I mean, they you know, it's completely unbelievable. You know, you cannot believe, you know, this type of timeline. You know, as they are trying to establish it, it's just it doesn't, you know, doesn't jive. You know.
Yeah, what I have to think of is the importance of Billy Lovelady being Lee in the doorway, and
yeah, that was he on the steps? No, but well, he could have been.
Yeah, what kind of shirt were you wearing? Was it like this? What about your hairline? Was your hairline a little back? They were doing
growing a beard.
Yeah, I think what Don just said is the most important thing that we have to draw, you know, from this whole exercise here. You know, when he says he could have been on the steps, okay, and Kenneth Bruton, okay, HSCA counsel, along with Robert Groden, okay, do not, you know, I just, you know, I have no words here, you know.
Yeah,
it's the last thing they wanted to hear.
Of course.
I can tell you what they said. Let's go on to the next set of questions.
That's right. He completely changes the subject. You know, I mean, any competent lawyer would have jumped on that. He would have barged right through that door, you know, and he would have said, wait a minute.
Stop the screen share, Larry. Just stop your screen share. Yeah, we'll keep talking, but stop your screen share.
Yeah, I want to talk about this, you know, what you have just said. I think it's extremely important. You know, we want to get to the truth, but obviously these guys did not want to get to the truth, Jim.
Well, no, they were on a mission. It was to obfuscate the truth, not to uncover it. So, you know.
And I think this...
and even under the contrived circumstances Don observed, they weren't able to pull it off.
Yeah. But you know something, we have people that actually, and I just want to thank, you know, Carl Golovin, because, you know, he came up to me in the last conference and said, Larry, is there anything, you know, that you wanted me to get at the archives? And I thought about it. I said, you know, there is. You know, and I've been working on this thing, you know, with the Lovelady tapes. You know, we were able to get one, you know, from YouTube that Morrissey was able to get, you know, and even that one was so poor, you know, the quality was so poor that Gary and I just slaved over that one for, you know, we'll look at it with 2 or 3 weeks, you know, but we were, if you look at the transcript, we did a pretty good job, Gary, you know.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
And we busted him a year or so ago.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I know. Great observation. But now that we have the clear version of that tape, you know, it's even more disturbing, you know, that, yeah.
No, this is all excellent, Larry. Excellent. I'm glad we devoted time to it. Gary, do you want to take us?
Yeah, time to bust on out of here, fellas.
Like a bat out of hell.
Like a bat out of hell, Larry Rivera rolls over JFK once again. We'll see you next week, fellas. Great job.
All right.